To turn our phones in.
Good.
Hey, the one time Kip
The one
that
time
was
it-
ringing.
That was good. That was good.
One time his phone that ringing.
That
Okay.
means you're on today.
That's right.
Kip is on today. Be
I mean, he's
good.
on. He's on it today.
I would have been on time, but John fell.
That was
Alright, I'll take all that credit.
That was
Yeah,
good.
okay. If we don't have to turn our phones in, everybody behave.
Not to executive session.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
You've heard of those.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, as the counselors had a chance to look over the minutes, and so I hear a motion to approve.
Approve, motion.
Second.
Have a motion second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and minutes are approved. We got a really busy pre-council today, and we do have executive session, and we got busy committee meetings, always council. It's gonna be a great Tuesday. We also have a very special guest today that I would like to start our pre-council with. She is, during the last election, she won the Democratic nomination for governor of our great state of Alabama, and I spoke with her staff last week, and she had spoken with Mr. Wilson, to put in touch with me. That's right. Then, so here you are here today. We'd like to welcome Yolanda Flowers, Democrat nomination for governor. And Ms. Flowers, you got the floor. You're fine. Just come up a little bit.
We got all kind of cameras on you.
I guess the best spot would be right over there behind the mayor.
Oh.
That's where our best, I know both of your sides are good, but that's where the best.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you all for the invite. As was said, I am Yolanda Flowers, and I am running for governor. I'm from Birmingham. Okay, I'll just give you a little bit about me. I've been an educator for over 20 years. I worked, started out as a reading instructor in Tennessee. That's where I did most of my service. I also worked as a vocational rehabilitation counselor for the state of Tennessee, as well as speech, language, and hearing pathologist assistant while living there. And upon coming here, of course, I was able to work as a but as special ed teacher for the Birmingham City Schools. And I guess the question would be, most people have asked, well, why governor? Why are you running for governor? Just growing up in the 60s, being born and raised, and I've seen a lot of bad things, okay? And that really what propelled me to leave Alabama when I graduated in '78 to just to get away and just to further my education. But my heart has always been here in Alabama. I've always wanted to come back, but I wasn't quite ready. Seeing a lot of things. I know some things have changed, but still, there's still a lot that has to be done here in Alabama. Things are still not proportionate. Things are still, I see a lot of dissimilarities and injustice, and that weighs heavily on my heart. I've also been working here in this state. I notice how our children's, the grades, the scores in education are so low. Yes. And it's just, and seeing how we're just missing the mark a lot in teaching our children and raising them. And not only that, just, the criminal justice is unequal. And I'm being honest, it's unequal among people of color. It doesn't matter if it's African American or Indian or Asian, I just see that. And because my heart is so torn and is so pulled, I want and desire for there to be equal. You say, well, how can that be? It can, we're people. It can, and we know what is right and we know what is wrong. We know how to love, and we all know how it is to be on the other side when and are predominantly majority of another race. So those are some of my driving points of education, because it's so, criminal justice because it's so unfair, as well as, you know, it's just high crime here in our state. Medicare, I see us here, a lot of us, except for a few of our young people here, who will soon be in their 60s and 70s and struggling for Medicare and struggling for health. So here I am. I see how important that Medicaid expansion is. It is needed, not just for the elderly, but for those who are young, okay? Who are young, who are working, but just cannot afford insurance, from their employers. I'm also looking at our economy, and I know we're making some strides, but we are so far behind of those surrounding us. And you said, well, Yolanda, what are you thinking about making this better? My first and most important objective goal is to bring the lottery. And I know that it's been shot down a lot. It's been shot down several years. But I speak so highly of it because, one, the most important, I've been there, being a resident of Tennessee for so long. I was also able to receive and enjoy the benefits of the lottery through education, the whole scholarship. And the lottery also, I've seen how the streets, the infrastructure, is just A1. They're always, and I hate to compare, but I just do I just compare what I know versus to where we are now. Mm-hmm. And so when you're talking about the infrastructure and the broadband and getting those things out into our rural communities, how beneficial it will be for our small businesses, beneficial for our hospitals, bringing that money, that revenue in, as opposed to giving our money to the other surrounding states, Mississippi, Tennessee, Florida, Georgia. Everyone is benefiting except for dear old Alabama. And so I would love to bring that to the table because it is needed. It is time. It is time for us to thrive. It's in time for us to any longer be the scourge of the 50 states. We got to do better. And so that is my desire as governor for us. It's not one race, it's not one or party, it's for everybody here, for us to benefit as a whole, so that we no longer would be the talk of the town. So we no longer would be a statistic as being 49th in education, 46 in healthcare, okay? 61%, or, we don't want that. So that's my desire as governor. So I'm asking that if you all, I'm not gonna hold you any longer. I didn't even ask how long I had to speak, but I know you all have much business. But I do ask that you will visit my website. It is yolandaforgovernor.org, where you can learn a little bit more about my platform, the issues that I'm pushing. We're posting all on social media. And I do ask that you just get to know me. I speak of my heart. And I think that everyone deserves to know who are going to represent Alabama, represent the citizens. So I ask that you all will get to know Yolanda. If you have questions, please visit that website. It will lead you to my email address, where you can just email me something. I do answer. I do call if you leave a message. So thank you so very much. We just thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
thank you,
council.
thank you for coming.
Thank you everyone for your time.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for visiting, and look forward to having you on my TV show next week.
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Flowers.
Get in there, Kip.
I'm already got a plug. Safe travels.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have, move on to department comments. Mike, Mr. Gardner.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Okay, this is a request for a vacation of Fourth Street between 20th Avenue and 21st Avenue. We're just north of University Boulevard. The building that you see just below the red rectangle is the old Weatherford office building. The rectangle obviously is the portion of the right-of-way that is the vacation request. A little back history. To the east was vacated several years ago where you see the parking stripes. And the portion that would have proceeded west and gone to 21st was vacated many years ago. So this is just a segment of.
Can you even get through to the right?
You can, but it's through private property.
Okay.
So there's a little bit better view. You can see to the left, it just goes into private parking.
And what are they gonna put, what are they gonna put there? Just
Can they put anything there?
anything at all?
Well, they will acquire the property in the vacation, so anything within the code, they could use.
And they're acquiring the property for what, in exchange for what?
This belongs to York Street property. Also,
York
what you
Street.
see has been vacated was done by Philip Weaver and Highland. What's it, Highland? I forget what his name, his company is. This is what's remaining. This little section right here, this is what we're talking about.
Okay,
This area, this building right here, two buildings belong to York Street properties. What Mr. Wright is doing is simply finishing off the vacation of this. And what he will be doing is two things. One is we're requiring when Mr. Wright, Mr. Weaver bought this many years ago, a gentleman named Howard White's still on this. And what was required when this was vacated for the Crescent, what Mr. Weaver had to do, was dedicate a 10-foot alley back here, or 10-foot emergency egress out to the right-of-way.
gotcha.
What Mr. Wright will have to do to continue to have that rear access, he will have to dedicate an easement, which he will do from this point to this point to allow him to still have that dedicated easement. He's also going to dedicate an easement into here, a right-of-way easement to this property.
Gotcha.
Mr. Weaver or Crescent or however, I can't remember what the name is. But that's what he's doing.
Okay.
Is there is that property there to the north of that, is that level enough to even do anything back there?
This all belongs to Philip Weaver, and this belongs to Philip Weaver. Actually, it's his corporations, but he owns all of it.
Oh, okay.
There's portions of it that are steep terrain. A little
Yeah.
bit to the northeast, there's Bill Robertson Towers,
Yeah.
that the House Authority owned. It is now owned by Weaver, so there is
Oh,
some,
okay.
there's some developable area there, but there's also some pretty rough terrain through there.
So Tom, if you've gotta give a 10-foot easement, correct? Why would they want it vacated, and what would it be in exchange for?
You'd have to ask Mr. Wright specifically why he wants to vacate. He's not here tonight, but Al Cadmus will be here tonight. He represents Mr. Wright. But all the other right-of-way around here has been vacated. This is the other half. This was the entire width right here. This has been vacated previously. This has been vacated previously. That's what's left. It's a small portion. And theoretically, at some point, if Mr. Wright wants to build across there. Now, his issue is, that's why he's got a issue with Mr. Weaver here, because that's how he accesses it. So he's giving an easement across here.
So,
So what he's doing two things. One, he's creating this 10-foot easement along here. That is a rear fire egress easement. In order, because if he rents these buildings, he's got to have rear fire access. The building official won't give him the CO. So he's got to continue that out along here to get to the right of way, to continue that. Second thing is, he will be giving his ingress easement. And we also have a sewer line through there too. So we've already, it's encumbered. He's already got a sewer line. He'd have to do the sewer line if he built over.
but to Lee's question, do they want us to give it to them?
No, there's a vacation fee.
And what is it?
I think in this case it's $35,000 less publication. But and if we've been over this before, 1149.6 is the method by which we have to calculate a vacation fee. It's given to us by the legislature, there's no other way around it. And in this case, you have a small area that's based on per amount per square foot, which have, it's worth, it's the assessed value. You divide those two, you get amount per square foot, and then you multiply it times this, what you're getting up there. So that's how it works.
Is
More
this
expensive to
coming
build-
up for a public hearing?
Yes.
Is that
Vacation
what we're
for
doing
public
today,
hearing.
is we're
Yes, sir.
setting a date for a public hearing?
No, the public hearing is tonight. You said
Public
this,
hearing is tonight.
Yeah,
you said
we'd already
this-
set the day.
yes, you said this back in, May. You have to publish this 4 times before the public hearing, 1 time after. So
All right.
everybody gets their say.
Any questions? Any further questions? Mike?
Answer any questions?
I just have one question, just for general knowledge. So if we publish this after we've already had the public hearing, does that mean that people have a chance to come back after the public
No,
hearings?
the
Okay.
requirement is, under the statute, you publish it 1 time prior to the hearing, and it has to be published within 14 days, 1 time after the hearing. But someone can, if they believe that they have been denied access, reasonable means of access, they have 30 days to appeal.
Have y'all heard anything from the public?
Okay. I think we can move forward with this and get it done. Thank you.
Know your stuff.
That all you have, Mike? Exactly.
We just have one introduction for you guys tonight, set a public hearing. So this is rezoning
I know, right?
from institutional to BN. So the University of Alabama owns this property. This is the old Fire College in between Snow Hinton and the mall, right there off McFarland Boulevard East. And the aerial here. So the plan behind this is they are going to lease the property to a developer for the construction of a new restaurant. Not sure exactly what restaurant they're doing in there at this time. They're still kind of working on that, but that's the idea. It was considered July 2022, and Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommended approval, and so you guys are gonna be setting a public hearing date for September 6th. Any questions for?
I think, it's in my district, I'm okay with it, I'm fine.
Over Alabama.
Not yet. Not yet is not.
What?
That's my district.
No, effective when we voted, it all changed.
No.
That's what Brandy told me.
Not to the
Did she
election.
like that?
Yeah. It's not to the election.
You just hurt your feelings
Well, then,
today.
how come they calling me about it?
I don't know. They need to get their act together.
You never miss a.
Now, if we have problems there, then it's your.
Never miss a
I'll
chance to
farm
cut
those
that
to
ribbon,
you.
right?
Okay, good for them, because they need more. They need a bigger place, for sure. Mayor Maddox.
2 pieces of good news. Number 1 is I don't have anything under mayor's comment. And number 2, we were anticipating an executive session, but we're not ready yet. We need a few more days to work something in terms of being ready to come back to city council. So we won't have anything for executive session.
Oh, wow. So our phones are safe?
Your phones are safe for this week, but next week I can't make any promises. All right.
Okay, before we, now, are there any department comments? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and let Brock, Porter, and Richard Henry want to speak briefly about, I think, your support for our design vote tonight on the Saving Center.
Sure, thank you, Councilman Tyner. Brock Porter here representing the Home Builders Association. Thank y'all for just a few minutes. I'll make it quick, even just 1 minute.
Yeah.
From our organization, we think you guys have just a tremendous opportunity in front of you tonight for our community. And we always say if we can get people to come to our community, we have a fairly good chance of keeping them here and helping grow our community. And so at the Home Builders, we love to see our community grow in good ways, and we think that the Sabin Center and the Convention Center that's up before you guys tonight gives a great opportunity, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to this community to grow and do something that our children and our grandchildren will be able to enjoy, and that we can bring people to this community to enjoy. So I'm here to just let you guys know that on behalf of the Home Builders Association of Tuscaloosa, we hope that you guys can give it your support tonight. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
Richard?
I'm here today with my Realtor hat on behalf of the executive committee from the Realtors Association. With their approval, came and wanted to ask, for y'all's support too of this Sabin and Event Center. I think it's gonna be it'll transform our community and really play into trying to keep some of these out-of-town college kids to stay here, to build the experience economy, and also support the young families trying to keep them here. So we'd like to ask for y'all's support in that tonight. So.
Thank you, Richard. Am I missing anybody else? I think those are only two names that I have. Thank you both for coming. Okay, Mr. Holmes.
Sir, good afternoon, Council.
Oh,
Never mind, Ms. Johnson.
Oh,
My place.
I'm sorry. That's my fault. We do have guests here to talk about the board appointments as well.
So rather than bore you guys with my normal board appointments briefing that I give you guys,
Never.
I brought backup. So I've got Mr. Robert Ennis and Bob Lewis here to talk to you guys about the Black Warrior Solid Waste Disposal Authority. We do have one of our members who has recently resigned. It is a 6-year term, and her term does not expire until next year. So we do need to find someone to fill that unexpired term. To give you guys some information about this board, here comes my backup.
Okay, all right. Bob?
Pretty good, right?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Mayor, how you doing?
Good to see you.
How y'all doing? Thank y'all for giving us an opportunity to speak a little bit about the Solid Waste Authority. We're not asking for money. Let's just get that out of the way. But my name is Robert Ennis, and I am Vice Chairman of the Solid Waste Disposal Authority, and I'm one of 3 city appointees. This is Mr. Bob Lewis. He's an appointee of the city of Northport, and he is Chairman of the Solid Waste Authority. Recently, we've been out without an executive director for 6 months. And Mr. Lewis has stepped forward and showed a lot of leadership and has actually been running the day-to-day operations for us with help, but he's very modest about it, but he's actually been doing that. When Ms. Johnson called me about the vacancy, we had a conversation about the Solid Waste Authority. And first, speaking to the vacancy issue, my term will come up next year too. So
Do you want to be paroled, or do you want to have
No,
another term?
I actually, believe it or not, we have lunch at the landfill, and
And that's too good to pass up?
that's a good. But we're quite proud of the fact that we're like the water and sewer department. You take our services, we provide a very important public service, accepting garbage and disposing of it in a safe and healthy manner, and we have been the #1 landfill in the state for several years. All of our garbage is covered every night. There's no exposed garbage left. We just completed the construction of a new cell, and now we're running about a cell every 18 months. Is that right?
2.5 years.
Yeah, 2. And they run about $700,000 to $1 million each, and they're very landfill operations is very high tech now. You just don't go bury garbage. You have to bury it in a cell. We collect leachate, dispose of it at the wastewater plant. We flame off methane gas and sell the carbon credits. And the landfill is measured through the use of flyover lasers. So it's pretty high tech. And right now, like I said, we're engaged in the process of searching for a new executive director. Stacy Vaughn is a city representative and is chairman of our search committee, along with Mr. Lewis.
Well, she's chairman on ex officio.
Okay.
She's doing all the work and doing a great job.
And so the day-to-day operations, as you can imagine, are very important for us. It's very important to have a very competent executive director. Not only are they responsible for the actual accepting and burying of garbage and the scales and everything coming in, but they're also responsible for compliance with ADM regulations, and ADM inspects us every month by surprise. and we have not had any violations. So, this position is very important to us, and it's very important for us to keep Stacy on the board because of her expertise in solid waste management that she received while she was working here for the city. So I'd just like to put a plug in for her that we need to keep her on the board if we can. You should have a handout as to our normal operations. But few people really realize what we do and the magnitude, but you can see our budget in 2023 is projected to be $11 million. Our operating cost is 4.6, but we have some big projects coming up. We're gonna start building a new cell, which probably won't be finished till 2024.
What is a cell?
A cell would be a lined area where we place garbage. You basically dig out, place sand, clay, and then a liner material about yay thick to keep any seepage from getting into the ground. And then on top of that, we'll have a couple of feet of sand, and then we'll start putting garbage there. And then after about 10 feet, we'll start compacting. At which point we'll grow a nice mountain of garbage that over the years will compact down. And any type of liquids from it would go to the Lutex system, which in turn would be processed by the Northport wastewater treatment plant after it goes to the city of Tuscaloosa sewer lines.
Wonder what lawyer wrote that up.
Yeah.
Well, since you've got Tuscaloosa between the landfill and Northport, it goes from our sewer into Tuscaloosa to the Northport wastewater treatment plant. And then at the end of the time, we'll have intermediate closure of that cell, at which point we'll have a few additional feet of material on top of it, grass covered, etc. And then when eventually the landfill is closed, we'll have a liner on top of it. So the garbage essentially is in a very large plastic bag.
Yeah. That's interesting.
And then have about 10 feet of top floor on top of that.
One thing, in addition to the new cell, we're expanding our gas collection system, which we collect the gas and then sell it on the market for carbon credits. And another thing you may not, most people aren't aware of, and this comes as a shock to a lot of local governments in Alabama, is ADM requires us to be able to have on hand the money to close the landfill now. They say close the landfill, you have to have the money. And in my report to you, you'll see where it's about $16 million. A lot of municipalities and local governments in the state, their landfills can't afford to do that. And so what they have to do is underwrite that closure cost with their full faith and credit, which can do devastation to a municipal or county credit rate. That is not your problem. We have consistently contributed to our fund and maintain a fund a little bit in excess of the actual closure cost. We like to run a little bit ahead because every year, obviously, it's recalculated and we owe more. So we keep that money on hand just in case we have to close out, plus administrative costs for 20 years. So that's something you don't have to worry about. Also, we have not increased rates since 1996. The rates are the same, and that is something your city and county representatives work very hard at keeping our rates the same. And of course, the local governments get a discount from our normal $30 per ton rate. And the state of Alabama, ADM takes $1 for every ton we bring in.
What do they do with that? What is that used for?
At least part of it has been used for your recycling, unless I'm mistaken, the ADM units Tuscaloosa's got.
Okay.
And I think part of it is used to actually fund ADM, but I'm not positive on that.
It seemed like the recycling, it seems.
Money for your trash.
So will a sale only last 2 years, and then you have to have another sale?
It depends on the size of the cell.
The one we just finished is about 150 yards long and 50 yards wide, and it will last us, what do you say, 2 years?
Daniel 2012, our engineer figures 3 years, Daniel Schwartz, our operations manager, figures 2 years.
Okay.
One of the problems, if you go with a bigger cell, you're gonna have a larger amount that you have to contribute to the closure trust fund. Once the cell goes into operation, we've got to have that money sitting in the closure trust fund. So a larger cell will have a larger upfront expense,
Right.
in addition to the cost of the cell.
Got it.
So by having a smaller, or relatively speaking, smaller cells, they'll last for anywhere from 2 to 4 years.
Well, after closure and you do everything, would Mr. Corder be able to go over there and build a subdivision on top of it? Or?
No.
No.
So what, can anything ever be done with it?
A golf course or some
Okay.
passive use.
Okay.
Amphitheater?
We've already tried it. It didn't work.
It didn't work.
But we don't have that bedrock that we did.
Yeah.
No, sir. Passive use, and
Okay.
the landfill will keep giving off methane gas for years to
That
come.
was-
Now,
I thought.
one of the things we did is this is the current landfill. We call
It's an old map, but
this is permitted.
this is the current permitted area.
That's where we're working now.
We will be working on getting this area permitted. And since we have had Mount Olive Road vacated here, we'll actually wind up having, about 100.
Where did Northport buy all their property? Didn't they buy
They
some?
bought it from us.
Which property did they buy?
They bought this over here,
Oh, okay, across.
this over here, and then we also had property running up here where we had bought it so we could build the new Mount Olive Road. And they bought the property east of Rose there.
See, what we had to do is, this is the state mental health department, Lake Partlow. We realized that we were going to be running out of future space. So we purchased this from the Department of Mental Health. When we did, they said, you have to buy all our property.
Which is how we got to this.
And we went away on up there, but this terrain topographically is too difficult.
And it's too small to really put garbage in anyway. Because you're required to have, I believe it's 100-foot buffer to a cell, so you'd only be able to, if we were interested, do a cell right in here, and it'd be a very small cell, and would not be economical to do.
And you would get into issues with.
Yes.
Yes, the neighbors were very upset when they heard we bought it.
They were very upset. We had that's not gonna be a landfill. One thing we do, we have a policy of buying property around us as a buffer. So all this land you see here, the land we own as a buffer, it can never be developed. We actually bought this subdivision.
We own this subdivision
Yeah,
still
we
here.
own this land here, that's a buffer.
This, we have this property here. We do not own this. That's still owned by the original owner.
Good souls for y'all to do what you need to do.
The best neighbor for a landfill is itself.
And one thing is, we closed Mount Olive Road, vacated it, and bought it. So that we can now start permitting this land over here, and we don't have to worry about traffic. We were crossing Mount Olive Road with dirt haulers 200 times a day, and I was terrified. And so we closed this road. We actually built a new Mount Olive Road from here to here. And along that road, Bob, is where the 911 call center is. Where is it? No, that's over there. Okay, but we actually built a road up here from Mount Olive Road to Rose Boulevard. And now we can cross here all the time. Now, right now, we have about 20 years of life left in the permitted side.
So where that area, that box is where the county's 911 center is?
Yes.
Right.
The county 911 center property is right in here and surrounded. This area is owned by Northport now, theoretically, for the new water park and recreation facilities. And this piece up here and here were sold to private individuals.
Because we couldn't use it. And we we had to buy that.
And we do not want to be in the land business other than for the landfill itself.
But just to give you an idea, every year, and this year, we expect 43,000 loads of garbage, over 309,000 tons of garbage. And that's our average. And that's what we pick up. And, you know, in my career, there was a time in City Hall where we worried where we were gonna put the garbage every day. Where we had strikes and lawsuits and garbage trucks were being abandoned on the side of the road, and sanitation workers were on strike. And we had a terrible time. And we finally hit upon this multi-government operation. And you haven't heard from us since 1996. Wow. Hopefully, unless you just want to hear from us, you won't hear from us. But that's all I have. Any questions?
And should anyone want to come out for a tour, we'll be more than glad to arrange it. Our staff is very proud of what they've accomplished, and they should be. And that's on them and not the board. The best thing the board can do is let them do their job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Needless to say, whoever we choose to appoint our person who has decided to resign needs to be able to handle all of that. So with your permission, I'd like to open the portal to accept resumes for at least the next 2 weeks or so. And then if we get any resumes, I'll bring them back to you guys and let you guys decide how you guys want to handle this one, okay?
Sounds good. Sounds great. Thank you, Bob. Okay, that's what we'll do. Thank you, Brandy. All right, now, Mr. Holmes.
Yes, sir, thank you. I was gonna let Mr. Ennis do this his whole time. I am on page 4 under number 8. We'll be starting on page 18 with the authorizing a resolution in support of proceeding with the design phase services for both Saban Center and Tuscaloosa Event Center. On pages 19 through 20, we'll be authorizing the city of Tuscaloosa to join the state of Alabama and other local governments as participants in the McKesson settlement. Both that and page 22, where you'll be authorizing the participation in the Janssen settlement. Those are part of the city's opioid litigation. Mr. Hobbs is here if you have additional questions for him.
Scott, are those the ones that have already begun resulting in a flow of cash, or are these additional ones on top of that?
These are additional ones that we're hoping to get involved in the settlement before that cash starts flowing.
Okay, and I don't want to uncork the whole opioid genie, but we got 200-ish as a result of that?
The money has not been distributed from the Indo settlement yet, but it is hopefully coming, and these will be 2 new additional settlements on top of that.
Okay.
Mr. Hobbs won't brag on himself, because the last 2 times I've seen the Attorney General, he has raved about Mr. Hobbs' work on a statewide committee on this issue, so thank you very much.
Chad has been leading this for the state and other organizations. On page 23, you'll be authorizing Amendment 11 for the fiscal year 2022 General Fund Reserve for Future Improvement Fund. That came from Finance on the 26th. On page 24, you'll be authorizing Amendment number 9 to the fiscal year 2022 Water and Sewer Reserve for Future Improvement Fund budget. That came from Finance on the 26th. On page 25, you'll be authorizing the mayor to execute a letter rejecting the infra grant. That comes from my office. You may recall this is the University Boulevard Bridge replacement project that is not moving forward. On page 26, you'll be authorizing the rejection of bids received for the 2022 meter changeout project phase 1 and authorizing a rebid.
So Scott, before we move too far away from 25, Mayor, when we reject the INFA grant, this has to do with the state's lead dots. This has to do with the bridge piece, right?
Yes, sir, just the bridge piece itself. And unfortunately, we're not going to be able, because of budget constraints, to be able to do the advanced bridge construction. The grants were $6.9 million.
And the grants were specifically for the bridge you build and then slide into place?
Yes, sir, because of the amount of workforce and many factors. But Director Cooper and the state, the city, the county, we're agreeing to continue discussions and maybe looking at a traditional model of, that can be applied, that can still limit the amount of time that intersection and bridge are out of service.
All right, go ahead, Scott, I'm sorry.
On page 27, you'll be authorizing personnel to conduct financial transactions on behalf of the city. You heard about that in A&F on the 26th. I'm sorry, that comes from A&F. On page 28, you'll be authorizing signors to various city accounts. That comes from accounting and finance as well. On page 29, you'll be authorizing the chief financial officer to draw drafts for the McWrights Ferry Road Improvements Project. Right-of-way acquisition, this is a total amount of $1,429,850, and I would like to brag on Mr. Bobbitt. This would be the Browns tract and the Taylor's tract, and these would be the last two tracts that the city needs to acquire for the McWrights Ferry Road.
And if you saw in the email that I sent to you, because of the confidential nature of the negotiations, overall on McWrights Ferry Road, we are significantly under budget for right-of-way acquisition. I want to thank
Mayor, can I
Tom
ask
Bobbitt.
Scott to repeat that last sentence that he just said? For those of you at home, are you listening? What did you just say,
These will be
Scott?
the last
I
two
wasn't.
tracks needed for McWrights Ferry Road.
So all of the tracks for McWrights Ferry Road have been purchased?
Once we finish closing everything, we have
Wow.
a deal on everything we.
So that means the road is gonna go to construction bid, isn't it?
Well, and this is
What a deal.
And I will say,
Everyone's paying attention.
Can you hear the snoring coming from District 4?
I will say, Mr. Busby, it's time to dust off. We got to run in parallel tracks. You know, we certainly, you know, if we're going to go, and TCRIC's got to run in parallel tracks as well, whether we use the Alabama Transportation Infrastructure Bank, whether we do traditional bond issue ourselves. This project we could be bid ready by October.
Good.
So, and I know we just got done with the 22A. We're about to have to slide into this as well. And I would encourage all council members that can be at I want to say August 19th, TCRIC Finance Committee. And then it's the August 27th, off the top of my head, TCRIC meeting. There are a lot of decisions that TCRIC and the city will need to be making in concert. And as many of you can participate on the front end, it would be very helpful. Please do.
And I would just like to say again, Tom, the work you've done and the legal staff, when we were first elected, I think we were 40 tracks in the last year, and I can't tell you how many people said, oh, well, we've been talking about this for 20 years. You've done a great job getting that shepherded and under budget, which is even
60 days before we told him he had to have it done, and this, none of them ultimately had to be taken through judicial process. This is Mr. Bobbitt spending days and days and weekends and times on McWrights Ferry Road meeting with folks, including two houses that have to be torn down, and getting folks in agreement to have this move forward, which is really tremendous.
Well, that's a huge accomplishment. Do
Tom won't spike the football. He's too superstitious.
That's right. Well, if these close, and we expect them to, that's a huge deal, big deal.
On page 30, we'll be declaring an emergency and authorizing an emergency public works contract with John Plott Company for the Jack Warner Park Slope Stabilization Project. This is a not-to-exceed contract of $1,427,215, and this comes from IPS. On page 31, you'll be authorizing a minor public works contract with Triple J Tree Services. That's a total not to exceed $4,150, and you'll hear about that in projects today. On page 32, you'll be authorizing a contract with Chambliss King Architects for architectural and related services for the facility upgrades and improvements to the Boys and Girls Club. That's a total not to exceed $134,805.35. You'll hear about that in projects today. On page 33, you'll be authorizing a disbursement from District 4 Improvement Funds for the downtown branch of the YMCA. That is a total of $5,000, and you heard about it in finance last week. On page 34, you'll be authorizing the mayor to make an application to the Bureau of Justice Assistance for fiscal year 2022 Burn Memorial Justice Assistance Grant. You heard about that in finance last week. On page 35, you'll be authorizing amendment number 12 to the fiscal year 2022 General Fund Reserve for Future Improvements. You'll hear about that in finance today. On page 36, you'll be authorizing the Tuscaloosa Police Department to sign a memorandum of understanding with the Tuscaloosa VA Medical Center. You heard about that in public safety last week. On page 39, you'll be authorizing amendment 4 to the fiscal year 2022 Water and Sewer Fund budget. Excuse me. You heard about that in finance last week. On page 40, you'll be authorizing amendment 13 to the fiscal year 2022 General Fund budget. You'll hear about that in finance today. On pages 41 through 44, you'll be amending various sections of the Code of Tuscaloosa pertaining to fire code violations and fines. You heard about that in, this says projects last week, but I believe that was actually on public safety. On page 45 through 46, you'll be amending various sections of Code of Tuscaloosa pertaining to false alarm notifications. You also heard about that in public safety last week. On page 47, you'll be setting September 6th as the date for a hearing to consider adoption of zoning amendment number 1481. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Any questions? Thank you, Scott. Okay, as we said earlier, we got a full day with projects, finance, admin, and properties. August 8th, Fire and Police Pension Board meeting, August 22nd, Lake Harris and Master Plan Community Engagement event at the Phelps Center. And then on the 25th, on the Thursday, Mayor's budget presentation to the council in council chambers, and note that it is at 1:30. Anybody else have anything to bring before the committee and councilors? Mr. Wilson, again.
Well, I can go now. I wanted to bring to our attention about safe communities. As you know, no community should be perceived as a gunman opportunity. Within my district, in the last couple of days and last week, we've had 2 shootings. One at a recreational at a gastropub, the other one at a convenience store. And I've talked to the owners of the gastropub, taking the time to talk to them, as well as the parents or the mother of the young person that was shot. And as I've talked to them and I shared with them, and we talked about measures to mitigate and to do our best to have a great community. Because I don't want anyone to think that in my district that you can just come and shoot and nobody cares, or that this is a norm. I spoke to the housing authority as well, and so we recognize, and I recognize, that the police must be able to do their job, businesses must be able to do their job, and citizens must be able to do their job and do it well and be accountable for their actions. And so I thought long and hard. I'm grateful for Chief Sanders, who I was able to meet with the young men of the business owners of the gastropub, but I have not yet met with the convenience store owner, but I will, and I am. And so I'm going to be asking for a collaboration meeting with, number one, the businesses where there have been shootings. Number 2, asking for the housing authority to meet with us and any residents who would like to attend. And once I get those collaborations together, we want to meet together because we want people to be safe. We want to make sure that people are able to enjoy going to a establishment. And because this was such an isolated incident, I know at the gastropub where both persons were from 2 different counties. And this was so unfortunate. And so I want to go on record to say this is unacceptable, and that as we're going to do all that we can, and I need your support to do all that we can to make sure that our communities are safe.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Councilor Wilson? Do you have anything you'd like to say? Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, is there a motion that we adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor